The dress still hung on the hallway hook tags clipped, but never worn. I had steamed it that morning just in case. My hair was done up a soft touch of lipstick, and the good earrings I only brought out for family occasions. I'd made fresh coffee, poured a mug, then set it aside to cool as I waited. A text, maybe. A quick call. Something. Instead, the phone rang just past 4 p.m. "Hey, Mom," Clara said, like we'd spoken 5 minutes ago. "I just wanted to let you know we had the dinner yesterday." I blinked, not understanding at first. "The engagement dinner." "Yeah," she said lightly. "It was kind of last minute. Gavin's family put most of it together. It was easier that way." She said easier, like I was a burden. I didn't know what to say. My voice caught in my throat. The words didn't come. She didn't fill the silence. "No. Sorry you missed it." "No. We missed you. Just we already had it yesterday." "Oh," I said. Finally, because it was the only sound I could make. She kept talking casually. It wasn't a big deal, just family and a few close friends. Gavin's mom really pulled it together fast. Gavin's mom? Of course. My eyes drifted to the counter where the envelope still sat, tucked neatly with a printed check. $3,000. Clara had asked for help with the deposit, said it was urgent, said they'd handle the rest later. She never mentioned she wouldn't be inviting me. "I managed," Clara added. "It turned out fine." I nodded, though she couldn't see me. "Okay," I said. My voice sounded small. Tight. "Anyway, just wanted to give you a heads up. I'll send pictures later." I hung up before she could. The line went dead, and I sat there. The coffee had gone cold. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just stared at that envelope like it was the last thing tying me to her. Later that night, I opened my phone. And that's when I saw the photos. It was nearly midnight when I opened my phone again. I hadn't meant to. My fingers moved without thinking the way they always did when I was too tired to sleep but too restless to rest. I opened Clara's page. I shouldn't have, but I did. There it was. The post. A string of perfectly lit photos, candles, glowing glasses raised a long table under soft fairy lights. Clara in a white cocktail dress, hair curled, eyes bright. Gavin beside her smiling like his life was exactly as he planned it. And in the center of one frame, Gavin's mother holding a glass mid-toast arm looped affectionately around Clara's waist. The caption was short. "To my second family, thank you for making this night magical." I stared at that line, read it again. Then again. My hand stayed frozen over the screen. No thank you, Mom. No wish you were here. No acknowledgement. No trace of us. I swiped through the rest of the photos. Gavin's parents were in nearly all of them. His sister, his cousins, his aunt from Florida, people Clara had known for less than 3 years. And yet, they were there. They were in the story. Robert and I weren't. I looked for a tag, a comment, anything. Something that suggested we'd been missed. Nothing. Not even in the background. Not even a memory. Then I saw it, buried in the comments. Gavin's mother had written, "You two are the most perfect pair. So proud of you both." And Clara's reply, "I'm so lucky to have you as my mom now." My thumb hovered over the screen. That word. Now. I set the phone down. I didn't throw it. I didn't yell. I just sat still in the quiet, staring into the dark. A part of me, some soft, stupid part, had still hoped this was a misunderstanding. But no. It wasn't that she'd forgotten us. She'd replaced us. And suddenly, all the little signs I'd ignored began rushing back. The knock on the door came just after 10. I was still in my robe, coffee in hand, not even pretending to do anything useful. Denise let herself in, she always did, and took one look at me before setting down a paper bag on the counter. "Cinnamon rolls," she said, pulling out 2. Still warm. I nodded, managed a faint smile, and poured her a cup. She didn't ask what was wrong right away. Denise had worked as a nurse for 40 years. She knew how to wait. how to let silence speak first. After a while, she asked, "Was it Clara?" I didn't answer, just passed her the sugar. She didn't press. "You were up late. I saw your kitchen light past midnight." "That's not like you." "Still?" I said nothing. So she kept going gently. "May, it's okay to say it hurts. She's your daughter, but that doesn't mean she gets to walk all over you." I looked down at the chipped edge of my coffee mug, fingers tightening around the handle. "Do you remember when you first moved here?" she asked. "Clara was 13. You were still working 2 jobs." I nodded. Accounting temp in the mornings. Payroll clerk in the evenings. I'd come home, heat up soup, check her homework, fall asleep on the couch, and still saved for her tuition. Every tax refund went into her fund, I said, almost like reciting a prayer. I didn't buy a new coat for 8 years. Denise tilted her head. "And vacations?" I almost laughed. Vacations. She always needed something new. Glasses, books, deposits. There was always one more thing. One more ask. "She's gotten used to it," Denise said, voice soft. "But May, you're not a bank. You're her mother." Does she still know that I didn't answer? I couldn't. Because in that moment, I wasn't sure if she did. Denise reached for my hand, but said nothing else. We sat in silence for a while, the kind that doesn't feel heavy, just honest. Later, after she left, I looked around the house at all the little things I'd put off fixing, replacing doing for Clara, and then my phone buzzed. Another message. Another request. The messages didn't stop after the dinner. If anything, they came more frequently. "Hey, Mom, rent's a little tight this month. Just until Gavin gets his bonus." A week later, "Forgot to ask, can you send over $200 for the electric?" "We're behind again." Then Mom, "Do you know a good accountant? We're starting to look at houses. Might need help with paperwork." I answered the first few, briefly, politely, the way strangers might speak at a bus stop. Then came the big one. "Gavin and I are applying for a mortgage. Can you co-sign?" "We don't have enough history yet." I stared at that message for a long time. Not angry, just numb. She didn't ask if it was too much. Didn't say thank you in advance. Just, "We need this. Can you sign here?" Like I was a signature. Not a person, not a mother, just another step in their process. I didn't reply. Not right away. Not that day. Not the next. Eventually, I stopped replying at all. And something strange happened. The silence grew. She didn't notice. Or maybe she did and didn't care. She never followed up to ask how I was. Never asked if I needed anything. Never called just to talk. I watched her stories online, wine tastings, new countertops, patio dinners with Gavin's family. Always smiling. Always surrounded. I wasn't mentioned. Not even in passing. I realized then, with quiet clarity, I was her backup plan. Her safety net. The invisible scaffolding holding up the show from behind the curtains. She only called when something broke. And when things were going well, I disappeared. I sat at the kitchen table one evening looking at her last message still unread. I didn't owe her a reply. Not this time. I let it sit. Across from me, Robert's old reading glasses were still on the placemat where he'd left them months ago. I picked them up, folded them carefully, and set them in the drawer. I was rinsing dishes when the call came through. Clara's name lit up the screen, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the usual pull in my chest. I didn't feel the need to brace myself, didn't reach for my checkbook or log into my bank account. I just let it ring once before I answered. Her voice was tight, panicked. "Mom, did you forget to pay the card? It just got declined. I'm at the register." No greeting, no explanation, just expectation. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and said as evenly as I could, "No, Clara." I didn't forget. There was a pause. "What I remembered," I said, "and that's exactly why I didn't pay it." Silence on the other end. Then, sharp, "Are you serious right now?" I kept my voice steady. "Yes." She let out a frustrated breath. I could picture her tapping her fingers on the counter, scanning her surroundings, trying to figure out how to smooth over this moment with Gavin's family watching. You could have warned me. I swallowed hard, not out of guilt, but because I knew how badly she needed me to feel it. You didn't warn me about the dinner. Mom, this isn't the same. No, I said. You're right. This is different. This is me making a decision. She started to speak again, but I didn't wait. I pressed the red button and set the phone face down on the counter. My hands were shaking slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of finally saying no. Outside, the wind rustled the trees, soft and constant. I stood there for a while, staring out the window above the sink, letting the silence fill the space where guilt used to live. The phone buzzed again. Another message. I didn't read it. Instead, I walked to the drawer by the hallway, opened it, and pulled out the folder I hadn't touched in months, the one with the labeled tabs and printed receipts. I set it on the table, and then I opened it. The folder had been sitting in that drawer for years. At first, I kept it to stay organized, old habits from my accounting days. Then it became a ritual. Every wire transfer, every check stub, every digital receipt printed and filed neatly under the same tab. Clara. Financial. I opened it slowly, like I was unsealing something sacred or shameful. The first few pages were from her college years, textbooks, housing deposits, grocery allowances. Then came the early adulthood requests, dental work, a car down payment, furniture for the apartment she moved into with Gavin. I flipped through them like reading a novel I already knew the ending to. There were pages and pages of things I paid for quietly, quickly, without ever being asked twice. And then, toward the back, I found the document I hadn't looked at in nearly a decade. My will. Her name printed clearly under sole beneficiary. I'd filled it out after Robert passed. At the time, it had felt right, natural. She was all I had left, and I'd wanted her to know she'd always be taken care of. Now, holding it in my hands, I felt something shift. It wasn't bitterness. It wasn't anger. It was something colder, clearer. Awareness. Clara had stopped seeing me as a person a long time ago. I was a provider, a balance to draw from, a name to sign next to hers when she needed credibility. I picked up my phone and dialed the number I hadn't used in years. My lawyer's office. A polite voice answered and asked if I needed an appointment. Yes, I said. Soon as possible. They offered next Tuesday. I took it without hesitation. After I hung up, I sat back in the chair, folder still open in front of me. My reflection caught faintly in the dark window across the room, older, yes, but not broken. Not anymore. I turned off the kitchen light, left the folder right where it was, and went to bed without checking my phone. The next morning, Clara and Gavin showed up at my door. I opened the door to find them both standing on the porch. Clara with her arms crossed, Gavin with that polite tension in his jaw, the kind that said he'd rehearsed something, but wasn't sure it would land. We need to talk, he said first. I stepped aside. Not because I was ready, but because I needed to see how far they'd go. They sat at the kitchen table like it was still theirs, like they had any right to comfort here. Gavin cleared his throat. We're not here to fight Malin. This situation, it's escalated. We think it's important to clear the air. Clara didn't look at me, just sat rigid, her foot bouncing under the table. I said nothing. Let the silence do the pressing. Gavin continued. We just feel like maybe there's been some miscommunication. The dinner wasn't meant to hurt anyone. It was just thrown together quickly. Clara finally spoke. You're overreacting. I nodded once. Slowly. Then stood. No, I said. I'm finally reacting. Gavin looked confused. Clara rolled her eyes. I walked over to the drawer, opened it, and set the folder on the table without saying a word. Clara glanced at it but didn't touch it. You replaced me, I said. Voice steady. Financially, you've relied on me since the day you moved out. But emotionally, you gave my place away to someone else and expected me to keep paying for it." Clara's mouth opened, ready to argue, but I raised my hand. "I'm not asking for an apology. I'm asking for space." Gavin shifted uncomfortably. "Malin, with all due respect." "No," I cut in, looking him straight in the eye. "Not with all due respect. With actual respect. And until that happens, this conversation is over." I walked to the door, opened it, and held it there. "You may leave now. And please don't come back until you're ready to speak with respect. Not need, not crisis. Respect." Clara didn't move at first. But then Gavin stood, gently took her arm, and they walked out without another word. I closed the door behind them. That afternoon, the silence felt clean, and I made a phone call to finish what I started. The messages came in waves. First, soft, guilt-laced. "Mom, I didn't mean to hurt you. You're taking this too far." Then sharper, "You just cut me off." And then rage, "You'll regret this. You're making me look bad in front of everyone." Each one buzzed onto my screen like a spark trying to catch fire. But I didn't feed it. I didn't reply. I read them once, twice, then let them sit there untouched. Gavin's mother called. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was polite in tone but heavy with condescension. "I understand boundaries." "Malin," she said, "but this feels excessive. Clara's under a lot of stress right now. This isn't the time to teach her a lesson." A lesson? As if I were a school marm withholding recess. I deleted the voicemail without a second thought. That Sunday, Denise came over with her usual knock and no need for an invitation. She had a container of cookies, lemon-free, just how I liked them, and 2 thermoses of strong coffee. We sat on the porch in the early sun, feet tucked under blankets, steam rising between us in slow, quiet spirals. She didn't bring up Clara. Neither did I. We talked about her dog needing hip surgery, about the new neighbors on the corner who planted tulips too early, about the bakery down the road switching to oat milk. And somewhere in the middle of that ordinary peace, I realized it had been years, literal years, since I'd had a Sunday like this. One that wasn't interrupted by a crisis or a transfer or a phone call that started with Mom. The wind moved through the trees like it had somewhere to be, and I sat back in my chair, warm cup in hand, letting the silence stretch wide and still. No one called for hours. No one knocked. And when the next text finally came through, I didn't even glance at it. Instead, I went back inside, pulled out the final documents, and underlined her name before crossing it out. The changes didn't take long. I removed Clara from the credit accounts first. One phone call, a few verification questions, and her access was gone. No more shared lines, no more emergency authorizations, just my name, mine alone. Next came the co-signed loan application. I called the mortgage company and told them I was withdrawing as guarantor. The man on the line paused, then asked, "Are you sure, ma'am?" "Yes," I said. "Very sure." He didn't ask why. I was grateful for that. Then I pulled the folder back out and laid everything on the dining table. Will trust property titles. It felt heavier this time, not because of the papers, but because of what they meant. The will was easy. I'd once left everything to Clara. Every cent. Every account. Every plan I made had her at the center. Not anymore. Now half would go to a local literacy foundation I'd volunteered with years ago, one that helped single mothers finish their degrees. The other half to my niece Layla, who once drove 5 hours just to bring me soup when I had the flu. She never asked for anything. She just showed up. Clara never showed up. Unless she needed something. I signed the new version, called my lawyer to confirm the update, then slid the paperwork back into the folder and pressed it closed. That same afternoon, I drove out to the lake house. It was quiet out there, exactly how I remembered. I replaced the locks myself the way Robert taught me, hands steady even when the screws stripped. Clara had a key once. Not anymore. That night, Denise came by with leftovers and sat with me while I filed everything away. "You really did it," she said softly. "Don't you feel guilty?" I looked at her. Really looked at her. "No," I said. "I feel free." She nodded, understanding more than I had to explain. I placed the folder back in its drawer for the last time, then turned off the light, made a fresh pot of coffee, and walked outside to watch the sun set behind the hills. It arrived on a Thursday, tucked between the utility bill and a catalog I didn't remember signing up for. An ivory envelope. Heavy, formal, my name printed in careful script. No return address, but I didn't need one. I knew what it was. I brought it inside, set it on the table, and stared at it while the kettle heated. When the water boiled, I made a fresh pot of coffee, dark, strong, steady, and poured it into my favorite mug, the one Clara gave me years ago for Mother's Day. It still had the faint chip on the rim where I'd knocked it against the sink that time she called crying from her first apartment. I sat on the porch and let the steam rise past my face. The envelope sat untouched beside me. I didn't need to open it. I could picture the words already. "With love and respect, we invite you to celebrate the union of Clara and Gavin. Love and respect." I took out my journal and opened to a fresh page. The pen moved before I even thought. I wasn't uninvited. I was forgotten. That's not the same. The difference mattered. Being uninvited came with intention, a decision, a confrontation. Being forgotten meant they never looked back to begin with. I closed the journal and finished my coffee. Later that day, I opened the drawer, pulled out the folder one last time, and slipped the envelope inside without reading another word. It slid in easily, like it belonged there, like it was just another entry in the long history of expectations I was done meeting. That night, I sat by the window as the sun dipped low golden light spilling across the porch. The silence didn't sting anymore. It was just still. When the wedding day came, I didn't dress up. I didn't check the time. I didn't think about what music they chose or what flowers lined the aisle. Instead, I packed a small bag, got in my car, and drove to the lake house.